As temperatures start to dip a bit and we move into the fall, that means we're reaching the heart of the heated 2016 election campaign season. What should we expect as we get closer and closer to Election Day? John Locke Foundation Chairman John Hood joins us now to share some insights. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much, Mitch.
So this is the time of year when people who haven't been paying attention to all the ins and outs of politics are finally starting to think about, well, okay, there's an election coming up. What does this mean for what we're going to see on the campaign trail?
Well, there's a couple of things that North Carolinians should know. Number one, this is one of the key states in the country politically. They've probably heard that before. It was true before. But this is really the only state that is truly in play for the presidential race, that is truly in play in the U.S. Senate race, and that is truly in play in the governor's race. There may be some other state like that, but I don't think there is.
And what does that mean for us, that we are so important to this national picture?
Well, partly it means that North Carolinians will play an outsized role in determining the control of Congress, the distribution of power at the state level, and, of course, the presidency. But it also means that North Carolina has become what arguably Ohio and Missouri used to be, which is a sort of a microcosm of the country as a whole. And maybe Ohio still is another microcosm. But the point is that North Carolina is very evenly divided between Republican-leaning voters, Democratic-leaning voters. North Carolina is full of places that are growing rapidly and full of places that aren't. North Carolina is full of people who say y'all, and increasingly full of people who say yous guys or some other kind of plural you. So the point is that if you want to know about what's happening in America, in American politics, not just at the presidential level, but congressional races, the legislatures, governors, state policy issues that a lot of times you talk about on this program, North Carolina is the place to look. And in fact, the national media knows that. We get a disproportionate amount of coverage, not just of our electoral campaigns, but about the issues that have been happening in North Carolina: taxes and spending, economic growth, education, HB2, voting laws. I mean, North Carolina is the center of the story.
We still stand out, though, in terms of barbecue. We're not a microcosm in terms of that. Now, because of those factors, what sorts of things are you going to be watching very closely as we get closer to the election day?
Well, if you look at the three big marquee races in North Carolina, president, Senate, and governor, the current status is that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are very close in the presidential race. Maybe Clinton, on average, is leading by a couple of points, but that's not really meaningful at this point. Richard Burr is leading his opponent, Deborah Ross, in the U.S. Senate race, but only by 3 or so points, more competitive than people would have thought. I would have thought it would have been more like 5 or 6 point lead at this point. So it is certainly competitive, though the Republican has the edge. In the governor's race, it flips around. I think that the Democratic challenger, Roy Cooper, is about 4 points ahead on average of the Republican governor, Pat McCrory. Now, all of these races could go either way, but that's the status point. So if you think about it in those terms, you will see a lot of Clinton and Trump and their surrogates. You will see Deborah Ross trying to take down Richard Burr, attack his record or personality. And you will see Pat McCrory, the incumbent governor, or his surrogates trying to take down Roy Cooper, who's currently a little bit ahead. McCrory has had essentially 4 years of negative campaigning against him by not just political actors, but the media. Cooper really hasn't gotten much attention. He has been a fairly low-key attorney general. He's been attorney general for a very long time. A lot of people still don't have an opinion about him. I mean, he's been in statewide office for, 16 years? And lots of people don't have an opinion about him. So it is McCrory or McCrory's surrogate's task to raise doubts about Cooper's record or Cooper's character, because that's all they've done to McCrory. And so that's what you would expect. And similarly, in the Senate race, it's Richard Burr who's going to be the target. He has been in statewide office for a long time, and yet lots of people don't have strong opinions about him. So I think you will see Democratic attacks against the Republican incumbent senator. You will see Republican or conservative attacks against the Democratic attorney general that wants to be governor, and then you will see a whole lot more of Clinton and Trump than you probably want to.
Certainly, I think that's true for most folks. We are chatting with John Locke Foundation Chairman John Hood about the fall campaign. You mentioned that it looks as if, beyond that presidential race, as if the Republican McCrory is trailing a bit in the governor's race, but the Republican Burr is leading a bit in the Senate race. Does that have more to do with the individuals involved, or more to do with the fact that Democrats who want to win both of these seats have been focusing more attention on the governor's race?
I think that latter point is absolutely critical, Mitch. If you're a partisan Republican or a partisan Democrat, you want your party to win as many seats as possible. But when you're deciding how to devote your money, time, scarce resources, you're going to make priority lists, okay? For the Democrats in North Carolina, the priority is winning the governorship. It's more important than winning the Senate race. It's more important than winning North Carolina for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton can win the presidency without North Carolina, but the governorship is the absolute linchpin of Democratic hopes. They don't think they can take the legislature back. They're right. So the way they're going to be returned to power in Raleigh is through the governor's office. Also keep in mind the governor's office is the source of patronage. It's the source of appointments. For lots of sort of Democratic and Republican professional political types, who controls the governorship really affects them personally, and it affects how the work they do and the lives they lead. So it is absolutely the highest priority for Democrats. It has been for years. They've been gunning for McCrory ever since he was elected, and so that's why he's a little bit behind. I'm in some ways surprised he's not further behind.
In the brief time that we have left, what are going to be some of the key themes we should be watching for, and what should people know about those themes?
The economy is an important theme because Republicans will be arguing that the national economy is weak. That's why you need change in Washington. And the Democrats will argue that the economy is weak in North Carolina. That's why you need change in Raleigh. Now, actually, the economy is relatively weak by national standards, by historical standards, but North Carolina is doing better than the average. So there is an actual truth to be had here. It's not just competing claims. The fact of the matter is, it is absolutely correct that the economic recovery under President Obama has been lengthy but relatively weak, and it is absolutely the case that North Carolina is one of the fastest growing economies in the United States versus that weak average. And so both sides are going to try to spin those facts to make the case for their respective candidates. They have to say the Republicans have to say the national economy stinks. That's why we need Republicans having more power in Washington. But the North Carolina economy is doing fine. That's why we need to keep Republicans in power in Raleigh. And of course, the Democrats will make the reverse set of arguments.
Is it going to be possible between now and Election Day to turn on a television set and avoid seeing a campaign ad?
I doubt it. We haven't even talked about the other council, state races, state treasurer, attorney general, lieutenant governor, some others, the judicial races. There are lots of candidates out there buying time. They will run out of time on the 6 o'clock news. They will start buying time whenever they can find it. So you probably will not be able to flee to any commercial cable channel and avoid political ads. Sorry.